So I fully realize how absolutely depressing it is to be talking about the 2021 NFL draft and mock drafts in October. But yet here we are, week 7, in our first 7-round Vikings mock draft for 2021. But, it is what it is. And I fully expect the Vikings, wherever they end up in the first round, I think that they will try to get back into the back end of the first round, Rick Spielman special, or try to recoup that second-round pick. There's a long time between now and April. Vikings could cut veterans. They could trade veterans. They could maneuver a bit. So there's going to be a lot of things up in the air. But as of right now, Vikings' biggest draft needs are quarterback. Yeah, I don't care about doubling down. Offensive line, it could be tackle, it could be interior offensive line, depending on how things shake out up front. Interior defensive line, safety, pending what happens with Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris, as well as wide receiver. Now, you could say cornerback, just because of the way that Dantzler's been shelled. Gladney's been playing pretty well as Harrison Hand TBD, but man, you use a ton of draft capital at cornerback, plus you have Chris Boyd, plus technically Holton Hill. Well, he's going to be a restricted free agent next year. I don't know if you pay him $3 million. And also Mike Hughes is on his rookie deal. So hey, you're fine. You're fine there. Despite what Zimmer says, no cornerback. You were not drafting a cornerback, especially high. So also remember, as of right now, some of these picks would be like, wow, how did that guy ever going to get there? It is so early right now. Draft boards are going to be wildly variant. It's almost like gauging what a draft is going to be like in October in the middle of a global pandemic when the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have even yet to play. All right, so again, this is just for grins. It's a long ways away, long way until April, so let's get into it. So I use the simulator over at the Draft Network. It's awesome. Highly recommend it. So this is what happened. So currently the Vikings are slated to draft 6 in the draft. So top 5, Jets, Washington, Giants, Falcons, and the Jaguars, right? So there's that. Jets went Lawrence, 1, obvious. 2, Washington, Penny Sewell. I'm surprised they didn't go quarterback, but how can you pass up that left tackle to eventually replace Trent Williams, who he gave away to San Francisco? And then Jamar Chase with the Giants. Gettleman ain't giving up on Danny Dimes quite yet. Okay, but just a phenomenal wide receiver on the outside. Justin Fields is the heir apparent to replace Matt Ryan. Really cool connection because he's from Georgia. He played high school ball in Georgia. He originally went to Georgia before transferring to Ohio State. And then also no pants for Trey Lance in Duval. It'll be a lot of fun there. So this is probably the worst case scenario for the Vikings because Penny Sewell is off the board. The top 3 quarterbacks are off the board. So what do you do? And also Jamar Chase is off the board. Like, do you reach for Bateman here? Do you take Micah Parsons? I mean, how's the fan base going to react if you take Micah Parsons, who's a phenomenal linebacker, but he's a linebacker, and you have all these needs at quarterback, plus you don't have a second-round pick, and you don't draft again until pick 70? Huh? How's that going to work? But Vikings, you could say that this is a bit of a reach, but it is what it is. Taking Zach Wilson, the pride of BYU, in this spot. Now, I don't want this to be a panic and reach pick a la Christian Ponder at 12 in the 2011 draft, but Zach Wilson does have a chance to shoot up these draft boards. I think 6 is a little bit too rich for him right now, but also I love Zach Wilson. I like Tanner Morgan. I like De'Ara King. I like Mac Jones. I don't know if any of them will be worthy of being in the top 10, especially not at 6 with the top 3 quarterbacks off the board. But I like Wilson. He's got a great arm, got good pocket awareness, throws with anticipation, great leader, eminently coachable, humble. You love that. And yes, you could say level of competition for BYU, but also level of competition is a double-edged sword because also you look at the level of competition the level of caliber of player that he's playing with against said lower level of competition. Because, I mean, BYU, maybe 1 to 2 NFL players on that squad. That's about it. But compare that to Trevor Lawrence, compare that to Justin Fields, you understand what I'm saying at this point. And also, he beat USC and Tennessee last year, 2 Power 5 teams last season. So, all right, so next up. Again, I do fully expect the Vikings to maneuver, try and get a second first-round pick, or try to trade assets to get that second-round pick back. But we're sticking to picking right here. Also, so they projected compensatory picks as well. So that's why the Vikings have 3/4 and extra 6, and and also they got that 7th back, so that's cool. Next up, third-round pick. So got your quarterback. You bought the house. Now you need to pay for the insurance. So in my mind, in my wet dream, so you trade Riley Reef, you get rid of him, or just cut him. And they got Ezra Cleveland as the left tackle of the future, where he should be. By the way, Bradbury at center, Brian O'Neill at right tackle. So you have those 2 guard spots are wide open. Vikings going to do something about it. So number 70 overall, Zion Johnson, interior offensive lineman, the pride of Boston College. Come on down, baby. So how much for a ZJ? If you got to ask, you can't afford it. So 6'3", 310. And very interesting story. So he was originally at FCS school Davidson. The Flyers? Sure. And then eventually went to Boston College. He transferred up there, started 7 games last season, and was amazing. Stud athlete, paved the way for A.J. Dillon to somehow become a second-round pick. He's got an NFL anchor already. Boston College has been cranking out some really solid offensive linemen as of late. He can flex in zone. He's got that movement skills. He's got the strength to hold up in gap. He's just absolutely phenomenal and a great value in the 3rd round. This may be low for him because I think that coupling his last season performance with a very solid 2020, he could eventually work his way up into the top end of day 2. But he would be an immediate plug-and-play left guard starter for the Vikings. So it would be Ezra, Zion, Bradbury, guard TBD, as well as Brian O'Neill. Baby got Stuga. Oh, plus you got Kyle Hinton. Plus you got Oli Udo. Plus you got Blake Brandel hanging out. Woo! Let's go. All right, next up. So into the 4th round, top of day 3, Vikings already got the quarterback and offensive line. You're feeling pretty good through 2 days of the drafts. But the Vikings decided to go defense with the first pick of the 4th round. At 107, they take safety Ardarius Washington from TCU. Now, Jeff Gladney's teammate from back in the day, Rick has this affinity for teammates, and it makes sense. You're watching film on one guy's like, hey, this other guy's pretty good as well. And TCU has cranked out some really good defensive backs as of late, but again, scout the player, not the helmet bomb. But redshirt sophomore. Now, he's only 5'8", a $179, so could certainly eat a burger, could certainly have some juicy loosies and get after that, but small, packs a punch, is absolutely not scared at all. Like, you put the small DB like cliches and comparisons. So you have the Antoine Woodfield Juniors, you have the Buda Bakers, you have the Bob Sanders, you have the, I think they're more of them. He gets me choked up. Is that you, Rona? Then say it like a honey badger. But he does have really good ball skills as well. And depending what happens with Harrison Smith, what happens with Anthony Harris, I think bringing in Washington, even though Zimmer says, safeties aren't that important. Well, who knows if Zimmer's going to be here, by the way. Face. Bam. Welcome to the Minnesota Vikings. Stays in purple. Next up, second of the 4 4th-round picks. Vikings going back to the other line. Spielman ignores the offensive line. At 125, picking up Jack Anderson, guard from Texas Tech. He's a senior. Now, he could have declared last year and probably would have been a decent draft pick, but decided to come back to Lubbock for another season. 6'5", 320 pounds. Now, it's weird to see a power run blocker from these wide open air raid schemes, but that's exactly what Jack Anderson is. He's got great power. He's got good balance. He's not going to find himself on the ground very often, a la Drew Samia. He's not an absolute uber athlete like Zion, but then again, who is? But also, he's not a liability. He does have decent movement skills. Plus, so tackles in air raid schemes do get knocked quite a bit, but interior offensive linemen in air raid schemes, I mean, not a whole lot changes because you still have the quickness of the game on the inside as opposed to the outside. So I really like Jack Anderson. He's only played right guard at Texas Tech, so I mean, it's fitting. So Zion Johnson, left guard, Jack Anderson, right guard. Let's go. Let's go. So the Vikings get your quarterback and 2 starting guards through your first 4 picks, and then the rest of the draft is gravy, to be honest. Like, if you can get this, sign me up. Sign me up, but we keep the party going. Let's go. Next up. All right, so 128, almost immediately after 125. Vikings go defense this time around, but they stay on the defense, on the interior. Picking up Dante Stills, defensive tackle from the West Virginia Mountain Mama. 6'4", 280. He's a true junior coming in. Now, you got Pierce back at nose tackle, which is phenomenal. You got James Lynch, I think could be a solid 3-tech, but I just miss that quick penetration, that Sharif Floyd-esque just like disruption in the middle, and Stills could bring that in spades. Stills has those skills. He's has got great athleticism for a 3-tech, and still staunch enough. Nailed it. Despite being undersized to do well against the run. Now, he's off to a bit of a slow start this year. He only has 3 tackles for loss and 0 sacks through 4 games for the Mountaineers. But last year, he had 8 sacks and 14 tackles for loss. So hopefully he can pick up some momentum and get back to where he once belonged. So next up, number 139 overall, the last of the 4 fourth-round picks. Because, we talked about the fourth round last year with Wanham and Lynch and Troy Dye. I mean, this fourth round could be even better, because almost like there's an extra pick. But the Vikings going tight end. Oh, say what? Welcome on in. Jeremy Ruckert of the Ohio State University. So I don't know if the Vikings are going to punt on Kyle Rudolph, but this could be his replacement. So you got Ruckert, who's a junior, 6'5", 230. Herb is more that move F Joker tight end. Well, he's most adept at that. His inline blocking has exceeded expectations, which is great. But Ruckert, with a big body, great blocking skills, loves to get after it, could and should be that traditional inline blocking guy. Plus, he is underutilized as a receiver, only 14 catches, 142 yards, but did have 4 touchdowns last year. But massive catch radius, could be a big red zone threat, and could move up if Fields starts finding him more in 2020 after Big Ten starts kicking off. Next up, 5th round, 146. Another pass catcher, because Zachy needs his pass catchers. All right, so 146, Austin Watkins from the University of Alabama, Birmingham, Blazer. Pride of Joe Webb, coming on in. Redshirt senior, 6'3", 205, and he is that traditional, like, big-bodied, fast, X outside the numbers receiver. Had 57 catches, 1,092 yards, and 6 touchdowns last season for the Blazers. Has 25 catches, 354 yards, and 3 touchdowns through 5 games so far in 2020. Just a guy who will go up and get it. He attacks in contested catch spots. He does not wait for the ball to come to him. He fights for the football like he's angry, which is something that's great to see. I think he would be a nice outside the numbers red zone complement to Thielen and Jefferson, and also him at the X, allowing Thielen and Jefferson to operate more from the Z or from the slot, where they're extremely adept at. Let's go. Next up. Into the 6th round. Oh, 666. Maybe we should cancel this draft. Anyways. All right, so Vikings. TBD what happens with Yannick. You could franchise him. You could not. You had Daniil Hunter coming back, which is great. You have a Fadi Odenigbo who's exceeding expectations and quietly playing very, very well. But you just need that extra element. Bringing in Jamar Watson, edge rusher from the University of Kentucky. Redshirt senior. 6'3", 248, and he is a pure speed rusher. He is a one-trick pony. It's a nice little trick, especially at this stage of the draft. Getting a guy who can play a rotational role, phenomenal. 2019, he had a 90.0 PFF pass rushing grade, generating 38 pressures and 6.5 sacks on only 172 pass rushing snaps, which is pretty efficient. It's not bad, right? So the Vikings are, besides Yannick, who's not even like that much of a speed rusher, but just missing that situational guy. You got third and forever. Put him on the field with Daniil, with Yannick, with Afadi, and just go. Just go. Get after it. Does have 3 sacks through 4 games this year. So who knows? Maybe if he has a phenomenal. All right, so he is a one-trick pony, doesn't really have a bull rush, is so-so against the run, so I think that could limit his draft upside. But getting him on day 3, I think that's a hell of a steal. Next up, still in the 6th round. So we said that we want to double dip on quarterback. Now, with 4 fourth-round picks, again, the Draft Network is factoring in compensatory picks here. I wouldn't be upset if the Vikings went quarterback again at the top of day 3, a la RG3, and then tumbling back on Kirk Cousins in Washington in 2012. But but the Vikings pick up another signal caller here at 184. The pride of the University of Notre Dame. Ian Book, come on in. Senior, 6 foot 212. So, like I said, I told you I was going to double dip on quarterback. Solid arm, throws with nice accuracy. Is a really nice athlete for sure. Undersized, but a little bit plucky. He does remind you a lot of what Trace McSorley was at Penn State. Just this undersized, fiery, feisty competitor type guy with good athleticism. And McSorley right now is a QB3 in Baltimore. 3,034 yards passing and 34 touchdowns last year for the Irish. Kind of marginal to start this season, but also you do question. So he always has good weapons around him. He's always got probably the best offensive line in football year in and year out. And yeah, I think just because of his height, just because of other limitations, I think that he doesn't get into the day 1, day 2 quarterback derby. But picking him up in round 6, I think is a nice little value here. 2 more picks to go. So Spielman always picks up either a 6th, 7th, or UDFA linebacker that's sort of plucky, that's sort of in his mold, because that's what Rick Spielman was when he played. So this year is no different. 6th round, number 218, Nate Landman, coming in from the University of Colorado at Boulder. Senior, 6'3", 235. And he is just this old school throwback, slobber knocker linebacker. Like, you could put him back in the 80s, early 90s, playing for McCartney in the Big 8. Big ass neck roll, playing against Nebraska. Yeah, you could see Landman as that type of guy. Led Colorado in tackles last year with 113. Also has 27 career tackles for loss and 6 sacks. He's got nice pursuit, plays great special teams. If and when Anthony Barr is cut, TBD what happens with Eric Wilson. I think they do re-sign him, but you're going to need to add some new blood to that linebacker mix besides Eric Kendricks. So adding Landman to the Troy Dye, Cameron Smith, Ryan Connolly mix, maybe Todd Davis is back, I think makes a lot of sense. Lastly, so you already got one wide receiver. May as well go for another one, right? May as well go for a speed guy. Now, if only there was a player that you knew had high character, high upside, and scouting would be really easy. So 228, Vikings take J.D. Spielman. Ow! Pride of TCU by way of Nebraska, by way of Eden Prairie. Even though JD spurned the Gophers twice, it happens. But redshirt senior, 5'9", a $180, 3 straight 800-yard seasons receiving at Nebraska, which is hard because it's Nebraska. But now is at TCU, off to a marginal start on the year, but it's whatever. Return specialist as well, 3 career returns for touchdown, 1 kick, and 2 punts. So, man, what if this is Spielman's swan song? It's like he brings in this draft class. He finally drafts another quarterback. He finally doesn't ignore the offensive line, even though that's a trope that we've proven to be false for sure. But and then he takes his son JD and just mic drops. I'm out, bitches. I'm a fan now. I'm gonna be part of the 250 friends and family at the games. Cool, but. It's possible. And, JD, like we said, has huge upside. He was a phenomenal player at Nebraska. And also, I think he could go a lot higher than this. But also, there's a lot of questions of, what's going on with the transfer. How can he pan out at TCU? Now, I think that if quarterback play doesn't prove at TCU, and he could get into some of that Jalen Reagor type production, then I think he's obviously going to go a lot higher than round 7. But as of right now, again, it's late October. There's a long ways until April, but if this went down for the Vikings, you got your quarterback of the future in Zach Wilson. You got 2 starting guards, which has been just positions of absolute annoyance for many years in Zion and Jack Anderson. You kick Ezra Cleveland out to left guard, and then you just pick up a bunch of guys that could develop, be role players, be situational players, maybe be eventual starters. Let's go. Let's get it on. So, last year was the start of the rebuild. This is finishing up the rebuild. It's actually now a reboot. So, just getting after that. And all of a sudden, cut Kirk Cousins, fire Zimmer, hire Eric Bieniemy. Let's go play. All right, so your thoughts. The first, probably not last, Vikings, 7th round, 2021 mock draft. Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support that work, pull something to Venmo. But until next time, Skull Production Value.